Welcome to Internally Guided Life, a podcast to help you unlock a life of balance, fulfillment, and joy. I'm Kayla Sweet, and together we're going to have fun and create change from the inside out. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome back, my friends. We are here on Internally Guided Life for another really nourishing episode today. I am incredibly excited for where we're going to take today's topic. We are going to be digging into living more joyfully and really moving out of our brains and into our bodies. So I think this is something that all of us need, and we aren't always great at it. So as we're trying to embrace this idea of living more joyfully, our guest is an expert on living like no one's watching. And I just love this concept. So that is what we're going to talk about today. Our guest is Kristen Iuppenlatz Grech, and she is a Master Pilates teacher. She specializes in posture, walking, and neurosomatic repatterning for pain relief. She's also an actor, dancer, and musical theater nerd. So she is multi-talented and just so much fun. So welcome, Kristen. I'm so glad you're here.
Thanks, Kayla. It's very nice to be with you. Talk about my favorite stuff.
Yeah, it's stuff that I think, we want, and it sounds simple, and in some ways maybe it is, but we overcomplicate it.
Yeah, definitely. That's true. And I like to help people find just the smallest bit that makes the biggest impact. It's one of the things that I've spent decades trying to figure out for myself after being in pain from some car accidents and working way too hard to try and get stronger and better, and realizing that what I really needed to do was kind of just release some of the tension and feel how my body can support me without all that bracing and efforting.
I love that. Those simple, easy things that don't feel so so much.
Simple, but challenging for sure.
Yeah. Simple doesn't always mean easy.
Right.
So to start us off, why don't you just share a little more about yourself? I gave the kind of brief bio, but tell us about the work you're doing in the world and a little bit more. You just gave us a sneak peek, but what brought you into this work?
Well, I had some car accidents about, I guess, 30 something years ago. It was probably like 35 years ago that I had two car accidents. I was a voiceover actor in San Francisco, and I was kind of running around frantically. I had a corporate job, and then I would run to a voiceover audition in San Francisco and running around. So I had two car accidents. They weren't my fault so much as just I was in that frantic energy. So anyway, and of course I was an actor. I didn't have any health insurance. And so just kind of navigating how to find some kind of care. And I remember I did see a doctor at UCSF, and he pushed on my arm and said, "You're fine." And I said, "Well, I'm in a lot of pain. Is there anything you can, help me?" And he said, "You could take some, get a massage, do some yoga." He said, "But you'll always have that pain. It's soft tissue damage. There's nothing." He couldn't give me surgery, so he figured I would always have that pain. So I lived with that for years, and I tried massage, and I became interested in Pilates by kind of happenstance, because back then there wasn't very much Pilates. It wasn't a word that people knew, but someone that I knew had done it. And so I found the one or two little studios in San Francisco, and I knew right away that releasing my spine and articulating my spine was going to be helpful, because I felt like I was in an iron, I was so tense from bracing after the car accidents, and I was in constant pain. So anyway, I got into Pilates, and it did make a huge difference. But I kept that voice of the doctor saying I would always be in pain stuck with me. And even when I became a Pilates teacher, and I'd been a Pilates teacher for about 10 years, I was doing all the advanced work. I was incredibly strong, but I still had pain. And I thought that was the best I could do. I thought I just needed to get stronger and, work harder. But luckily, I met some incredible mentors who taught me how to soften and release my body into gravity. And that's when I felt my deep strength really turn on. There was parts that I wasn't even getting to the deeper musculature because I was so braced on the outside. So I recognized that softening into gravity and allowing my body to move naturally woke up the deep core strength that I was searching for in Pilates. And I mean, I've done so many things. I'm 61 now, so I've been working on this for a very long time, and I'm kind of an education junkie. So I've gotten all these different certificates and keep different mentors. And I did a year-long mentorship with Wendy LeBlanc Arbuckle, who's a spectacular embodied biointelligence teacher who really changed my life with helping me understand how to let go and drop into gravity. Basically, is I don't know if that makes sense to people, but that's one of those things. It's simple, but it's difficult
Yeah.
to remember. So the work that I've done since then is trying to give people a shortcut to what took me such a long time to learn. I remember in some of the teacher trainings where there'd be like a round robin of all these teachers teaching each other, and each person would come to me and go, "Your shoulders are winging, your head's forward, your shoulders are winging, lift your head." And I kept adjusting, but my body went right back to that. And I wasn't aware of it. So the next person would say, "Your shoulder blades are winging, your head is forward." So one of the things I did is I got like double mirrors in my bathroom so that I could look at my own back like I look at my clients. I could do it for my clients, but I couldn't figure it out for myself. So I just like standing naked and looking at my shoulder blades and trying to figure out why my shoulder blades and my head were where they were. So then the next certificate that I got recently was neurosomatic intelligence, basically figuring out how the nervous system, the operating system of the body, my nervous system wants me to be in that old pattern of bracing because that feels safest. Even though the car accidents were 31 years ago, I'm still holding on to that. And I have to remind myself all the time. So that's the kind of the how the work has kind of come through to what I teach as kind of my method is how do you find that one small piece that sets up the whole pattern that makes you feel better? It's really about feeling better, not about having perfect alignment because we aren't symmetrical, but how are you balanced and how do you feel free in your body? So one of the things that I teach also is how to take everything out of the Pilates studio into your life. Because as I was really great in the Pilates studio, super strong, doing the advanced exercises. But as soon as I walked out, I was living my life. I had two little kids pushing their stroller and doing the dishes, and all in this terrible tense pattern. So, bringing it out of the studio and in little moments in your life, reminding yourself, recognizing that if you have a tendency to bring your shoulders up by your ears, what does that feel like? And then what does this feel like? And how can you get your body and your brain to feel safe in a new, more relaxed posture? And then taking it into walking. And then to me, dancing is just rhythmic walking. So dancing around your kitchen. So my program is called Kitchen Dancer because basically it's about finding little moments in your daily life and feeling better in the mundane tasks. And that's when things really change for you. If you hook it into the way you brush your teeth. For me, it used to be when I washed my hair, my neck would go out and then I couldn't move my neck for 3 weeks. So figuring out what I was doing, I wasn't giving my body the support I needed. And it was giving me pain signals like, you're going to hurt yourself. But I didn't know how to interpret those pain signals. So that's part of the work I do is help people interpret their pain signals, make adjustments with their body and their nervous system, and then find little tiny ways to hook that into their lives, the things they're
Mm.
already doing every day, and try and feel joyful. Not a huge dance so much as just a little, that kind of reminding your body to move with more ease and joy in the mundane tasks is what's changed my life.
Mm. I there's so many things that you just said that I feel like are so poetic, but the first one that really stood out to me was you said that you had to learn to soften and relax in order to tap into your true strength. And if that's not like a motto for
Right.
life and living in this embodied way in our
Yeah.
bodies, but also, I mean, in our minds and our hearts, like sometimes that softening, that not resisting, that leaning into the joyfulness is really
Yeah,
what we need.
absolutely. And it's challenging. And you have to keep reminding yourself. And for me, hooking it into something I'm already doing was really helpful. And it's
Right.
because there's so much that's already required of us, so much coming at us to think about, oh, I got to put on my special clothes and go to the gym and do my thing. Um, which I'm not against going and doing some movement, but how do you bring it into your life? And then we sit at our computers all day, and then we go work out really hard, and then we sit at our
It's also forced and so
yeah,
tense. Yeah.
yes, right. Get bigger, get stronger. Ah,
Yeah. Yeah, and I loved what you said too about like how because of these accidents and I think just the trauma of living, right? Like you said, being at the computer or doing the hard
yeah,
workouts, like our bodies are so acclimated to this tenseness and
yeah,
that feels safe. Like, we're bracing for impact, we're
right,
bracing for the next thing to happen,
yeah,
and that just keeps us in the stress response all the time.
yeah. And one of the other things that's been really helpful is recognizing the movements that the human body was designed to do. We've mostly taken out of our lives. Squatting, crawling, climbing. Um, we're sitting in 90-degree angles most of the time. So putting back some of that fun movement, and in dance you can replicate that, and it's a fun way to do it. So um, just bringing your knees up, and it's not quite climbing, but it's moving more in that direction of natural body movements that we've kind of lost in our kind of our lives that are I don't want to say that I don't know, everybody's privileged, but we don't have to go and gather our own food and um, wash our clothes by the riverbank and those things
Right.
that would put us in those positions that our body was designed for, that we've mostly lost.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've talked about the kitchen dancing a little bit already. I do want to talk a little more about that because I know that was something that you mentioned when we first talked, and I checked out some of your social media, and I mean, I felt joy just watching some of your videos and, kind of leaning into this idea of dancing like no one's watching, dancing in your kitchen, really like doing this intentionally in these everyday moments, as you said, but then it kind of became like a philosophy for living and embodiment. So tell me a little bit more about how that came to be and how you work with that practice.
Well, I kind of embrace the word weirdo. Weird kind of. I remember if I look back at my high school yearbook, everybody said, "You're so weird. You're weird, weird, weird." And I was an actor, and I liked that kind of weird, being able to be goofy and weird. And so dancing to make people laugh is something that I used to do. I remember my boyfriend in high school, I would turn on singing opera and dancing badly. So on purpose to make people laugh. And so I was just recently, it was during COVID is when I kind of brought my work online and was trying to figure out how to connect with people and keep teaching because all the Pilates studios were closed. And one day I was dancing in the kitchen to my daughter's like crazy, she must have been like 12 or something. Some, very modern hip hoppy kind of music that I wasn't supposed to enjoy. And I was dancing around the kitchen, and I think she just had, first had her little phone, and she took a video of me to embarrass me. So I then kind of played up to the camera and then I shared it. And that was the thing, as I was trying to kind of bring my business online and figure out what that all felt like, which was weird.
Yeah.
That's what people responded to. Everybody loved that video. And I think because I'm older, I don't have a perfect body. It's strong, but it doesn't look the way you're supposed to look when you post Pilates videos. And uh, that I was being goofy. I wasn't trying to, do a perfect TikTok dance or something. I was just goofing around. And people really responded to it. So during COVID, I just started dancing in my kitchen and posting. Sometimes even when I was really sad, there were a couple where I was sad and kind of processing, but I just turned on the camera and danced. And for me, because I'm an actor and sometimes I don't feel this way so much anymore, but I used to feel like I didn't even exist unless I was with other people. So something about having the camera on, even if I'm alone in my house, I always feel kind of uncomfortable alone in my house. I'm a real extrovert. I like my family around. But turning the camera on, even if it wasn't live, I knew people were going to see it. So I felt really connected to those people that I knew were going through the stuff I was going through during COVID. So it was really a healing thing for me to just record little moments of me dancing in my kitchen, which was, processing all the stuff about being stuck in your house and feeling couldn't go to the gym. I mean, for a while you couldn't really even walk. I know some parts of the world you couldn't even go for a walk.
Right.
So that resonated with people. And people started calling me kitchen dancer. I was in Sacramento once, which is about 2 hours from where I live, doing like a Pilates conference. And I was walking down the street and somebody drove by in their car and screamed, like, oh, I'm internet famous.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So I just thought, I mean, it's so hard to build a business and create social media that I just thought, okay, if that's what people like, that's what I'll do. And then I had an opportunity. I used to go to an entrepreneur's summer camp, Jonathan Field's Good Life project. And I really wanted to present at his camp, at the camp the next year. And he had written a book, and one of the chapters was Dance Like Nobody's Watching. And I just thought, I could do that. So I created a workshop. And it was like really a highlight of my life to bring. It was basically, I made it for people who wouldn't be caught dead dancing in public. Like they were entrepreneurs, geeky people who were not gonna dance in public. So I kind of challenged them to come, and we started with laughter. I do laughter Pilates to get into your body. And then we did a bunch of, I was a drama teacher. So I know a lot of improv games for 12-year-olds. So we did all these like goofy improv games, like where you're throwing darts and you have to jump out of the way. So people were in their body already. And then we turned on the music and people were leaping, and we did some mirroring. People were leaping, and, it was astonishing. It was well beyond what I imagined could happen. And some people came back a couple times as I led the workshop, and to see people being given that gift of not worrying if they were a good dancer, and just, we were just goofing around, and so I just realized how much we all need that. And in our culture, we don't have, people always say to me, oh, I can't dance. Oh, I don't sing, which is so sad, because another thing that the human body was designed for, to dance and sing. And in lots of cultures, everybody sings and dances. It gathers in community and sings and dances. In our culture, you have to be drunk at a bar or a wedding to really let loose. Or there's this idea that you have to be like TikTok good dancer.
Right.
Which is just so sad. And to sing too. To sing is so healing for your nervous system. Breathing and singing and dancing, and just, it doesn't have to be something something polished. It's just, even sitting at your desk, doing a little bit of pelvic movement and letting your rib cage move and humming or recognizing what it feels like to be in your body.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that
Oh,
was a long answer to your question.
no, I love it. I mean, I think you hit the point pretty beautifully that we have lost touch with this natural desire and need to move freely and be in our
Yeah,
bodies and to experience this joyful, loose, relaxed, kind of goofy, silly movement. And
yeah,
I resonate with that. I was somebody that did not. It would still be a stretch for me to dance in public. I've gotten a little better, at least in my house with my husband.
good,
He helps me embrace my goofiness quite a bit, but I
good.
had lost touch with that for years. Like, there was childhood where I could do those things and I felt free in my body, and then
Yeah,
something happened, and there was probably a decade or two where I was just so constricted, so hyper aware of what other people might think if it wasn't perfect, if the
right.
voice wasn't perfect, if the movement wasn't perfect. And even though probably nobody even cared, I feel like we're sold this message when we're impressionable youths that people are
Yeah,
going to judge you and criticize you, so you just have to stay small and really
yeah.
constricted. And it's so painful. Like, it's so freeing to be able to move joyfully and to have fun and to laugh and to not care what it looks like. But I think a lot of us have lost that and or feel fearful of what it would look like to reclaim it.
Well, and sometimes people are mean, and we can all probably point to one moment when people shamed us for, dancing weird or being loud or whatever. But sometimes I point to all of we have some superstars who are really weird dancers, like Mick Jagger. Such a weird dance, but we all love that. He
Yeah.
just is fully exactly himself. So we embrace those superstars who are just able to just let their body move. But we should all have that same freedom. And who cares what people think? Everybody's obsessed about themselves and what people think of them. And those people who are shaming somebody else, they're probably the most stuck.
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
sorry for those people who have to point out that somebody can't sing or dance well. How awful.
Yeah. So, I guess a question that's coming to my mind is for people who might be listening that this does feel out of their comfort zone. Well, I want to dig into some other stuff later in the show, but while we're on the topic of dance and song and goofiness and silliness as part of this, like dancing like no one's watching, living like no one's watching, just embracing that joy, what are some small steps that you help people with in this process to start to let this in to their lives if they've lost touch with that or it feels scary?
Well, and because I work with people who are in pain, and more people who are older who've had injuries or surgery or something, um, finding that one really stuck piece that can make the biggest difference. Um, so understanding your body, its history, because usually when I start talking to people, they'll go, "Oh yeah, I did." They'll say, "Oh, I don't have any injuries and no, whatever." But then we'll start to move, and they'll go, "Oh, that's probably I broke my ankle when I was 12, or
Mm.
a horse stepped on me," or it's crazy what people comes back to them that we forget. Oh, that must be when I fell off the motorcycle, or it's like, oh my goodness, that is something worth acknowledging as something that was a
Right.
big impact on your body, because we just get on with it. We don't even recognize what we're doing. Mine started with a bike accident when I was 10. I was barefoot riding a rusty bicycle we moved to the mountains, and I just found an old rusty bicycle and rode it up the mountain barefoot, kid. And then as I was coming back down the mountain, I realized there were no brakes. So I had to
Mm.
kind of like grind into the side of the road. And I wiped the gravel out of my foot, and I really never thought about it again. But I couldn't really use that toe for my whole life, even though I was a dancer. It's crazy that I didn't notice it, or you just get on with things. So then I
Right.
had to figure out how to make that toe mobilize and how not being able to stand into that toe set off a lot of the stuff that when I had the car accidents, I was already set up to have that injury in my neck.
Mm.
So anchoring into my left foot allows my right shoulder to drop down and my head to go back into place. So I was spending all this time with my shoulder blades and my neck, shoulder blades, neck, but I wasn't addressing that I didn't have an anchor into my left foot, which is why my body was not feeling like it could relax into gravity.
Right.
So that's kind of what I help people figure out what is going on with their patterning and why is their nervous system want them to go back then how do you notice that, people will have this great Pilates session with me, we're talking about all this stuff, and then we're talking about their next session and they go right back into their, and I say, can you notice where you have your weight in your feet, where's your shoulder? Oh, right, it's just so deeply ingrained. So finding that awareness. So coming up, I have a 21-day dancing body reset, which I'm excited because I now have a platform where I have a community. It's not on social media. It's on Teachable, which is the platform where all of my courses are. So I have a separate place to gather and so that my courses aren't just a video that you buy and you watch the video, because for me it just wasn't satisfying. I needed to be able to talk to my students.
Right.
I wish they could all come into my studio, but that's not going to happen. So now I have this platform where I can actually answer questions and do videos and do dance parties. So this 21-day dancing body reset is 21 days of just like a minute. I don't even think they're even all a minute, but it starts with just your ankle. Here's a little, what can you do with your feet? What's happening with your ankle? Do you have a glitchy ankle? And then the next day it's like your knees. And so it's like the smallest thing. So each day you're doing one small thing. What's it feel like to just move your shoulders? And then shoot, that's it. That's your day. And if you think about it during the day a couple times, that's kind of the idea, to notice
Right.
the rotation, these tiny pieces, and then you put them all together and you're dancing and you recognize what's this glitchy spot and how can I breathe and how does it feel better if I just do it a few times? Oh, it actually does feel better. So that's coming up, just because I recognize that people have it's hard to do something new and to think about, oh, I'm just going to start dancing in my kitchen, and you try it once and then the next day your knees hurt and you're like, oh, that's not for me.
Right. That's a good point. That can that can happen too. I'm gonna have to check out this 21-day reset because I've got, you said a glitchy ankle. I definitely got one of those. I got some toe things going on because I dropped something on my foot a couple months ago and probably should have gone to the
Yeah.
doctor. Like
Oh
all these
no.
little things that you, like you said,
We
you
all
just get
do.
on with it and then you
Yeah.
realize, oh, that's actually causing some stuff.
Yeah, especially when you're 70. People push through, push through, push through, and then when they're in their a lot of my clients are in their late 60s, 70s, even. I mean, I work with people all the way up to however old they are. But you retire and you go, now I want to hike the Camino in Spain, but oh, my foot from when I was 20.
Right.
So I really love to work with young people too, because they have that pattern isn't so deeply ingrained. And if
Mm.
somebody had talked to me and given me just a little bit of information, take your toe, and even though it hurts, make sure that it moves. Because after I hurt my foot, then I hurt my knee because I didn't create any support in my inner leg. Nobody said anything about, oh, you're knock-kneed and hyperextended and you have no strength in your inner leg. So that's why your knee popped out of joint.
Mm.
Nobody said that. And we don't have, I mean, the healthcare situation, at the time, I didn't have any healthcare. I went to the college, whatever you call it. It was nice if somebody probably wrapped my knee or something, but it's hard to get the information that you need and the support you need. So we got to do it. We got to do a lot of it ourselves and in little ways. And of course, I mean, coming into the Pilates studio is really expensive.
Mm.
So get that information to people who can't afford to come into the studio. I mean, if you could all come into the studio once a week or twice a week, whoo, that's great. But everybody should have an opportunity to feel better in their body. And I have so much to share. And just a little thing makes such a big difference. So I really want to be able to share it with as many people as possible. So, and I don't know what's happening in the world lately, but we are all going to need to keep dancing and singing.
100%. Yes. Well, and I'll just know while we're talking about dancing and singing and learning to reset in this way, we do have a gift in the show notes that will give you 100% off of this challenge. So if you listen and you grab the link in the show notes, you'll get a special gift. You'll get to participate in this and get a sneak peek into what this work might look like for you. So that was super exciting. I was really happy to see that gift there.
Good.
So, I guess kind of continuing to dig in, like you said, we need more singing, more laughter, more dancing, more of this just like free form living that is just allowing the joy, not feeling so tight, so
Yeah.
constricted, so restricted. And you mentioned earlier that part of this is, the nervous system
Yeah.
and all of this wiring in our brain and the way that that's playing in with our body. So talk to me a little bit about this brain body
Good
connection.
question. Good question, because what's true is your body doesn't know if you're really joyful or if you're just moving and sounding like you're joyful. So if you open your chest and look up at the sky and laugh, no matter how fake it is, your body goes, oh, there's some feel good chemicals. We're happy. So it's not that simple. I know that if, again, it's like you got to keep resetting. And if you don't feel joyful, it's challenging, even just to like open your chest and look up. But again, just the simplest thing. Can you look up, make a sound, breathe, and just notice that if there's a little trickle of something available that's a little more joyful, then can you, can you, I think partly just recognizing, for me, recognizing what the nervous system is the operating system, and we can play with it. We can, um, no matter how much, I mean, so many of us are depressed and anxious, you can kind of reprogram. You can repattern your body, but you can also repattern your emotions. You can recognize your emotions and let them, I mean, there's just so much touching your own body.
Mhm.
There's so much happening. And I do havening, which I love, which is kind of uh, touching your arms and doing eye movement. So all of the nervous system stuff, which is eye exercises and vagus nerve and your auditory system, your vestibular system, all of it really. I use it in my movement work too, but it also uh, helps your body just recognize that you can shift. You can make a small shift and then build on that shift in the same way. So laughter, fake laughter, and because I was an actor, I learned how to fake laugh. And basically, I teach people just put your hand put your hand right under your rib cage and one on your belly, and then just go ha ha ha, that little forceful breath, and then you vocalize that. Ha, and the good thing about it is that we all know laughter is contagious, but it's contagious for yourself too. So one of my tricks, and I started doing this when I had little babies that used to, trying to get them in their car seat and they're mad and screaming sometimes. So I started laughing, and we would grade each other's laugh. So we would all take turns laughing, some maniacal laugh, and then there was just three of us, and then the other two would go, that's a 6.7, or that's a 10. We didn't really have signs, but that's one of the games we played. And that helped me like release my mom stress of getting in the car, getting them to daycare and then getting to work. And that helped me stay joyful, process the anxiety. And so then what I do now is I just do like a under the breath laugh sometimes, like that feeling of, you know, you're in church with your sister and you're trying not to laugh. That just like that little
Yeah.
bubble of laughter. You can do that anytime you're feeling like stressed or it turns on your deep core muscles, and it's a little bit of a vocalization, breath. It's kind of like a little microcosm of what we need just to feel better in our bodies and a little more joyful. So
Yeah.
and I mean, it works really well for me. And I teach a Pilates with laughter class, and it's kind of a way to trick people into the deep work, because if you're laughing and doing those Pilates exercises, you're starting with the deep support.
Mm. That is so powerful. I've never been to a Pilates with laughter type of class, and it sounds amazing. But
I think
even
I'm the only one who teaches it that way.
that's it's so amazing. Like you said, it does get into those deep core muscles, but also the joy, like you're tapping into
Yeah,
joy in a different way. And just watching you over video, the way that you move, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm sitting really still. Like I it looks like it feels good, and it's brought joy in me just to see the freeness of movement within your body. So I definitely can tell that you live this practice. It's been useful for you, and it seems like it is just these little tricks and tips that you can do to kind of start to lean into it and start to connect with
yeah,
the body. Are there other
yeah.
things that you like to share kind of right off the get with people?
Well, I mean, I think people think that aging is gonna suck and they're gonna feel worse, but I feel much better than I did even in my 20s. I mean, I was a waitress with bad shoes and my feet were killing me. My neck hurt all the time. Um, and then I had my car accidents in my 30s, and I was in terrible pain, chronic pain, like a knife stab under my shoulder blade. And we just kind of learn to live with that. We think that, especially women, think that their feet are supposed to hurt and that your shoulders are always tense and your neck hurts. And now at coming up on 62, I feel better than ever. I couldn't squat my whole life, probably because I wore high heels all the time. I didn't realize that I had so much more capacity to move and feel good. And there are certain things that I can't do at 61. But actually, I don't know. I feel better in my body and I'm more capable than ever. This summer I went rock climbing, and I was thinking, be gentle with yourself. Maybe you can't do this. But I went to the top. I went so much further than I thought I could. Real rock climbing. And there was a cute boy at the bottom telling me exactly where to put my hands and feet. I wouldn't have been able to do it without him. But I went to the tallest climb and I did it. So I really feel like, partly because I understand my limitations. I know how strong I am. I know what I can do. I would have stopped if I was going to hurt myself. If I'd done that in my 30s, 40s, I would have really hurt the next day.
Mm.
But I didn't feel any strain or pain or anything. I used to be a skier. I mean, I'm still a skier. I just don't get to ski very often anymore. And I used to ski every day, and my quads would kill me and my ankles hurt. And I just thought that was, you know, what it felt like. But now if I go skiing, even just out of the blue, I spend a day or 2 days in a row just skiing hard. I don't feel any pain anymore. I feel
Mm.
like a little bit, ooh, I've used my hamstrings or
Right, a
something,
little
but
tender.
I don't feel pain anymore. So just getting your body in the right place and understanding your limitations, because we all are, there are real limitations. Especially I work with people who have joint replacements and surgery and stuff, to know where is your limitation?
Right.
How do you protect what needs to be protected? And then where's the freedom and the joy? So getting older, I forget how old I am, frankly. Seems ridiculous sometimes. But I just think it's a different way to age, and we're all aging. So
Right.
just that little bit of relaxing into what feels good instead of, I mean, there's so many times people come into the studio and they'll say, it hurts when I do this, it hurts when I do this. And don't do that.
Right. Yeah.
Find another way to move and build that strength that's hard to get to
Mm.
in a tiny way, not just for an hour at the Pilates studio or at what your physical therapist exercises. How do you put your hand on the kitchen counter and find that strength that you're trying to build in those exercises? Are you cutting your, meat like this and going to the physical therapy and, doing this exercise? How can you find the application of exercises in the gym or the Pilates studio or yoga studio, PT? One of my favorite things to do is help people take the exercises they got from the physical therapist or whatever they're doing and integrate it into the things that they're doing. I work with equestrians and musicians and athletes. And one of my favorites was a professional bubble maker. She had all these long, like 20 feet long bubble things, and she would go to festivals and make these massive bubbles, but it was killing her. So just figuring out how to leverage her shoulder blades,
Mm.
and now she can do it without pain now because she was, all
Right.
this, and she was strong, but she hadn't integrated the work we were doing in the Pilates studio. So I went out to her house and looked at all of her equipment, and we actually felt how the Pilates, what she was doing in the Pilates studio supported something she was doing for hours that was hurting her. So I
Right.
just love to kind of feel the creative, that's what I really like about taking the work we do in the Pilates studio out into the world. And if I get to go, I also got to record, videotape one of my clients who was an equestrian, and we worked together for years, but she was jumping and she was recognizing when she landed, it was like she was feeling like bracing. So I got to
Mm.
record her jumping and slow it down and show her what was happening because she had scoliosis. And then we worked on it in the studio, and she was able to apply that and feel different when she landed. I don't know, I just love my job more and more because it's so much fun
Yeah.
to like figure out a little puzzle of somebody's movement.
Right. And the patterns not just in their body, but in their life and the movements they're repeating frequently and how that's
Yeah,
impacting them, how they're holding themselves within those. That's
absolutely.
so powerful. Yeah, it I'm thinking of my younger sister while I'm listening to you because I know you said like you're feeling better now than you did at certain other points in your life. My younger sister she's only 26. She works a very physically demanding job and she is in pain all the time. What are some things that you recommend? I know it's probably ideal if you have somebody that can guide you and they see where you're holding these things, but are there things people can
Yeah.
do at home to start to do this work for themselves?
I think figuring out your feet. I mean, the shoes that we wear are just mean. Having your toes squeezed together and your heel lifted is really not good for your body. Um, so I wear only barefoot shoes now, and I can hardly wear a shoe with a little bit of a lift and a restriction in my toes. My body just goes like, "What are you thinking?"
No.
And I have big feet, and I used to wear vintage shoes. I loved vintage shoes, so I just wore terrible shoes most of my life. But my feet are so happy now, and I never have any foot pain really. I still have some stuff in my Achilles I'm working out, I think, from wearing heels for so much of my life. Um, I still have lots of things that I'm working on. But getting your feet, becoming aware of what's going on in your feet. So often when people hear what I do and they start asking me questions, I have this knee pain. I look at and say, well, look at what's happening in your feet. Even your shoe has slid, and
Mm.
your knee has too much responsibility. Bring yourself over here, find your inner thigh. How's your knee feel now? Oh, the pain is gone.
Mm.
So figure out your feet and learn how your feet talk to your whole body. So one of the things that we do in the neurological work is just take your foot and rub it with a soft cloth, or it could be your hands, but it's nice to have another something to rub your feet with, and create a mind map. So say, this is my pinky toe,
Mm.
this is the arch of my foot, here's my heel, here's my ankle. And then, well, and before you do that, do like a little test, and like stand on one foot to see what your balance is like, and then rub your foot, and then do a little eye exercise. You can do it with a pen or even your thumb. Just bring your thumb out in front of you and track it with both eyes as it goes out and in. Don't go so far that it's cross-eyed. Do that maybe 8 times, slow with breath, and then retest your balance. And usually it's so much better because your brain knows where your foot is. And then everything in between your foot and your brain has a better connection and understanding.
Mm.
So for me, the feet are just so crucial because everybody's got a foot thing. So often when people say, I've got this hip thing, like, well, look what your feet are rotated in, your sit bones are clenched together. It's your weight's over here, put some weight over here, let your sit bones widen. Whew, feel how that wakes up your belly. How's your hip feel? Oh, it feels better. But we go right back into it.
Yeah.
It's that repetition of tiny moments in your day that can change things. And sometimes here's the bad news. Sometimes if you've been bracing and limiting range of motion, to go into that movement can sometimes feel uncomfortable.
Right.
And it's an important distinction to figure out what is painful, what is sharp, burning, nervy that you need to go see a surgeon for, or what is just uncomfortable and weak.
Mm.
Um, and so often, those people who go to the doctor over and over, and the doctor says, I don't, there's nothing. I can't, there's no surgery to do. Because there are things that if you have an injury or something, you may need uh, more more support from, somebody above my level. But even so, I work with people pre and post surgery too, so that they do much better in surgery and they do better afterwards, because what's interesting is you hold on to that pattern. Even though you have the hip replacement or the knee replacement, you're still, the musculature and the nervous system are holding on to your old pattern if you
Mm.
don't pay attention to it and shift things around. It can still be, it's difficult because that pattern might be really kind of shaky and weak, and you have to do something small. You can't just go to the gym and lift 100 pounds on something
Right.
that's been sedentary.
Yeah. Yeah, it
So
sounds
feet.
like yeah. So learning what's happening with your feet and drawing that, I loved the practice that you shared about the mind map. So really
Yeah.
bringing awareness to it. That makes so much sense to
And
me. And
simple,
yeah.
simple. And what's really powerful is change and pain relief can be instantaneous, because the pain is not in your body. The pain is in your brain. We don't even have pain sensors in the body. The brain is trying to determine what's
Mm.
happening with lots of information. And the brain is extrapolating how much pain signals to send out. That's why it can change. Give your body a little bit of inner leg support and the pain changes.
Right.
And the brain might be saying, the brain's going to give you the same signals if you've snapped an ACL or you have a really tight IT band. That's why sometimes somebody was just telling me about, I can't remember who, they, something snapped and she had zero pain, but she couldn't move her leg.
Ooh.
So it's not a direct, the pain and the injury. Sometimes we have this fear and the pain is very loud. So then you got to start really small and relax your nervous system and build strength in a place that's not going to make your body scared. And sometimes
Mm.
that can be really small. But for me, having that realization that somebody told me once that if you passed out, like people say they have really tight hamstrings, if you passed out, somebody could flop your leg around. So it's not a tight hamstring muscle, it's the fascia, the connective tissue, and the brain setting a point that it feels safe.
Mm.
So if you do a little something and then, ooh, I have all this range of motion, your body feels safe with that movement. The fascial body, the connective tissue that is transferring all the information from your brain to your body and trying to figure out what's safe, um, then you have all this range of motion. And then generally it goes back to tight. So
Right.
you can reset things. And that's why moving with joy helps you stay in that kind of more fluid place where everything's talking to each other and
Yeah. Yeah, you're feeling more playful and more safe when you allow those kind of free
yeah,
form
yeah,
movements. It sounds like there's a lot to this, but there's also small, simple places that people can start. So like the
right.
intentionality and getting to really just that awareness, it sounds like of your own body, of your
Yeah,
body's journey, of where you hold these things,
yeah.
what those patterns are, and then how can you build into your life those little spaces for a shift.
Start small and then keep doing it forever. We have to keep doing it forever. There's no place where you finish.
Mm, right. Yeah. Yeah. You kind of have to make it part of your life to be intentional with how you're
Yeah.
moving.
And imperfectly too, because especially with social media, we see so many people who are, I mean, obviously incredible athletes and dancers and stuff, and they say, just do this one thing. And they're like doing the splits. Like, well, if you can't do the splits or you can't even stand up comfortably, that's not that helpful. It just kind of makes you feel bad. Like, geez, I wish I'd started at 12
Right.
being a professional gymnast.
Right. So I could do that thing that's going to make
Right.
everything better. Yeah.
But what's the thing that you could do? You could do, you could move back and forth a little bit and notice those muscles that are super tense and how you can add a little bit of rhythmic movement and breath to let them soften a little bit. Whether or not I don't want to do the Russian splits anymore. It's not very functional.
Right. Focus on those little things that will actually
Yeah.
matter for you in your life.
Yeah. And whatever you want, we don't all have to be doing amazing, the people on the internet are it's just crazy to see what people are doing, and it's phenomenal, but we're not all going to do that. That takes a lot. That's not little simple daily things. That's like 5 hours of training a day.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think that's
That's not
important
what I'm
too.
interested in. I want to just live my life. I don't.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's good for us to have that like expectation of what it could look like for us and not to compare to all of these images that we're seeing online that are making us set these crazy expectations because then that's where you go to the advanced yoga class or this really
Right,
hardcore and then you injure yourself further
right,
because your body's not ready yet or that's
yeah,
just, you're not conditioned.
right. And sometimes people can't even get up and down off the ground, and so then they
Hmm.
say, "Well, I can't go to yoga. I can't." They don't know where to go. They don't know what small thing to do. And I mean, there are a lot of us who are even young people that can't get up and down off the ground easily because they spend so much time sitting in chairs.
Hmm.
So, and sitting in a chair all day and then going to an advanced yoga class where it's not, it's not ideal. We got to have it in our daily, we got to have more of it in our daily life.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess as we're getting close to our time here, what are some things that you just recommend for the general person? You don't maybe know their specific body story, but what are some things that most people could do with pretty little risk that would help them start to tap into some joy in their movements in their body and start to find that comfort and that pain relief and also just that embrace of playfulness.
Well, I think again, feet. If your feet hurt, you can do all kinds of work up above. But if you start to dance and your feet hurt, so get your own hands on your feet. Massage your feet. Get a ball, roll the bottom
Mm.
of your feet. Put your fingers in between your toes. And often people can't even begin to do that, you know. So start where you are. Move each toe. Um, what I think is helpful sometimes is if you, because people share videos of themselves, people who were born without hands, and what people can do with their feet. And then you remember what human feet are supposed to do. They should be like helping you climb up a tree. But people without hands can actually, one woman shows a video of her buttoning her baby's tiny little
Mm.
jammy buttons with her feet. So our feet have been stuck in these deprivation chambers. But if you get them out, start to move them, um, it just makes such a difference. Pay attention to your shoes. If your shoes are smushing your toes like this, maybe think about getting some shoes with more movement, or at least getting barefoot sometimes. Notice where there's pain in your feet, because if there's pain in your heel, you're going to avoid walking on that part of your heel. So get your hands on your feet. Get your ankles mobile. Roll your ankles around. Feet and ankles. Then stand up and do like a little prancing. That's dancing.
Right. Yeah.
Notice, we should say, a lot of times people come in and they say, oh, I pronate or I supinate, so somebody gave me these arch supports. And then again, you're not allowing your feet to move. So sometimes those are important for short-term pain relief, but if you're not allowing your foot to move as you walk, um, I mean, everybody's different. I don't want to overgeneralize, but we should all work on having more available movement in our feet.
Yeah.
And then dancing around your kitchen in small ways, start to feel your feet come alive.
Mm.
And then notice how when your feet are talking to the earth, then your hips stack over your feet, your rib cage stacked over your pelvis, and then your head can bobble up on top, your shoulder blades can slide down your back. I talk about it being like being a puppet. Imagine you're being hung from the ceiling and your arms are just hanging, your legs are dangling. Then your pelvis and your rib cage are going to come into the right position.
Mm.
And everybody has their own way of slumping and
Yeah.
rotating. So if you can think about the puppet string lifting you up, your shoulders don't have to hold you up. Your spine is being hung by the puppet string. Everything else can just drip down.
Mm.
Your rib cage isn't swinging forward or back or to the side, or so getting what is available movement, and where do you hold yourself, and then where
Mm.
does your head have to be? If your rib cage is back behind you like this, there's no way your head's going to be on top. Your
Right.
head has to adjust to whatever's happening down below, and when you're sitting, then it's your pelvis. Are you way behind your sit bones? Are you in front of your sit bones? Are you heavy on one side? Do you always bring one leg over the other? Can you just put your heels on the floor and feel your pelvis like a bowl? And how does your spine come up out of your pelvis? And your shoulders don't have to help hold you up. Your head doesn't have to help hold you up. It just bobbles on top. And
Right.
then how do you notice when you go right back to your,
Mm-hmm.
and then how can over time, not only finding this, but your body those muscles will come back online.
Mm.
It might take some time.
Right. I know as I'm watching you, I'm like very aware. I'm like, what is my what is my posture doing?
Yeah, we all have it.
Ah, yeah. So it sounds like pay attention to your feet, spend some time with them, dance, but pay attention to how things are aligning when you're moving. That's what I'm kind of hearing as you're talking through this. Like, notice the things that are coming up when you're doing that more free form movement
Yeah.
and then bringing it into your life,
Yeah.
intentionally
And
and
maybe
consistently.
maybe you do need some PT exercises. Maybe there's something going on. What is an old injury? What does it need?
Mm.
And have that, it might show up, and we
Yeah.
need to give that all some love too.
Yeah, I love this. I feel like this is a great place for people to start to drop into their bodies, get connected with some joyfulness, some playfulness, and pay attention so that ultimately they can have less pain because when you're in
Breaths.
pain, mm,
Exhale. Remember to exhale. Yeah.
yeah. Every time I see someone take a deep breath, I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't took a deep breath in a minute. Yeah.
And I like to emphasize the exhale, because if you fully exhale, then your breath comes in naturally. You don't have to think about the inhale if you're really getting all the air out.
Mm,
And then the pelvic floor and the diaphragm are doing this beautiful dance, and all your organs are moving. They're all dancing in between. So that's all locked up, and you're breathing up here. You're missing out on the whole movement of the pelvic floor and the diaphragm.
mm.
It's a really amazing instrument that we have.
Yeah. Well, and that helps you talk about like nervous system regulation, right? Like breathing. It's
Yeah.
science 100% supports
Yeah.
this. If we
Yeah.
breathe intentionally,
Yeah.
deeply, the long
Breathe and hum.
exhales.
Mm-hmm. Ah.
I love it. Well, is there anything before we wrap up that you were hoping we would get a chance to talk about? Something else that you were wanting to share with anyone who's listening that has maybe some chronic pain or is just wanting to embrace this idea of being able to live and dance and sing like
Yeah.
like no one was watching.
Yeah. Don't get discouraged. I mean, I said that I feel better than ever, but I've got arthritis in my thumb. I've got tight Achilles. There's always something to work on. Um, but just keep kind of that idea of like, oh, it hurts when I do this. See if you can. I've been doing little thing, even with my. There's nothing I can do. I've got some old patterns. I'm going to have to work on this thumb, but getting this thumb mobile and strong. That's one of the tickets to these things that get injured. They need to get strong too. So I
Mm.
just do little things where I just put weight on that hand, not 100 pounds, just to like lift myself up sometimes to wake up this hand connected to my whole body. I have to keep doing it because the pain comes back. But if I keep this thumb really strong, it does feel better. Um, and when my whole body feels great, I don't think about my thumb that much.
Right.
It's just so it's not. I'm not. I think part of the when you like when my neck hurt, it felt terrifying. I felt like my head was going to come off. But I have low back stuff and my Achilles and stuff. It doesn't scare me so much. So the pain is different. I know that if I just start to move, it gets better every day. You get out of bed and it's like, oh, my ankles, and
Hmm.
So it's a different kind of pain. So sometimes we do need support. You do need a masseuse. You do need physical therapy. You do need. I mean, I just like whatever anybody's got, any kind of healing thing. I love all that stuff.
Yeah, take a little bit of everything.
But just as much as you can, find where it does feel good in your body and let that kind of emanate out.
Mm.
And just keep working at it, because so many people just stop moving. Especially, I'm watching my parents as they age, and they're now in an independent living place with lots of older people. And so many people, I can see what they did not do with their body by what's not available to them now.
Right. Yeah.
So even just a little something will pay off over time.
Yeah.
A little bit of them, and remember to allow the joy to bubble up in your body, because it's a much nicer way to live.
Yeah. It makes it feel more fun too. It's more enjoyable to do a practice that makes you feel joyful than a practice that you're
Yeah.
forcing yourself into.
I mean, for me, yeah. I mean, I love Pilates, but it can be very serious and intimidating, I know, to go into a Pilates studio where it's very precise and serious. And
Right.
I like some levity.
Yes. Well, I hope that people that are listening have a few good places to start. I think you've shared so many practical tools, tips, strategies, and also just the importance of knowing their own body story. And we've got some resources to start. You know, you can all check out Kristen's work and check out the free gift in the show notes. Yeah, I think this is really exciting. I definitely am going to share this with some of the people in my life who I know
Right.
deal with some of these chronic pain things. And even myself, you know, sometimes I'm good with movement practices and sometimes I'm not. And so just
Yeah.
reminding myself to stay consistent.
Yeah. Let me just say one more thing about the 21-day dancing body
Yeah.
reset. Even if you did day one and got a little bit of information about your ankles, that's great. It's not like you must show up every day and do each thing. You can start with your head and move down. It's just really kind of lots of tiny little moments of how you might add movement. So I think it's right for any kind of personality. If you're a kind of person that wants a calendar and you have to watch it every day and do your homework, works for you. If you're a more creative person like me, jump around, see how it feels.
Yeah. Ah, I love it. Is there anything else that you want to share, or I guess where all can people find you? We'll have links and stuff in the notes, but I always like to
Yeah.
hear from the person themselves. Where can people find you if they want to stay connected, follow your resources? Yeah.
Pilates home practice. So the website is Pilates Home Practice. Kristen, Kristen, at pilateshomepractice.com. If anybody wants like a deep dive, I do a 5 session package where we do a postural analysis where I videotape you and give you feedback so you can see exactly what's happening. And then we do specific exercises for you specifically if you're an equestrian or sitting at your desk or whatever you do. I help people. Like one client was taking her mother's wheelchair out of her car, and we have to do stuff. So very specific. How can we strengthen those muscles so you're not hurting yourself as you're doing this specific thing? And
Mm,
then at the end of the 5 sessions, we do another postural assessment so that you can see how those tiny changes actually change the way you look. It's not really about the way you look, it's about how you feel. But for me, with that nervous system stuff, to see what's happening in your own body and feel
hmm.
it is really powerful. So if you're interested in that kind of deep dive work, I do that too. So I
Amazing.
want it to be available to everybody for free, but I also, if you can, do that really specific work. It's really powerful.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think it's an investment that people won't regret making in their bodies now. It's going to save you a lot of pain and probably medical attention later on,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much for joining us. This has been so much fun. I know I've taken away a lot from it. I'm ready to move. I'm like, I've been
Good, good.
sitting
Yeah,
in this
yeah.
sitting
Yeah.
in
Well, as
this
part
chair
of
for
the
too
21
long.
day dancing body reset, there will be dance parties, live dance parties. We all get on our little Zoom. You can have your camera off. You can sit in a chair. I have clients who can't stand, but they do chair dancing or whatever. You can still kick your legs out, but you
I
don't have to
love
be on
it.
camera. But just to get the energy of a group of people dancing. And that mirroring stuff, you see somebody else doing this, and that gives you an idea. You don't have to like think of what am I going to do. There's people you can just copy. What are people doing?
Yes. Ah, I love it. There's a coach I
Request your
follow.
favorite song.
Yeah. There's a coach I follow, and every time she does like a Zoom meeting or something, she starts it off dancing and asks
Yeah,
everyone to dance, and it just starts the energy so fun. So I love that you've
yeah,
included that in your dance
yeah.
reset.
For everybody, bad dancing is welcome.
Yes, that's the
Bad
only kind I do.
dancing.
All Amazing. Well, everybody, I hope this inspires you to get moving, get dancing, get laughing, and get connected with Kristen. And add this to your toolbox of ways you can care for yourself. And we will talk to you soon. I can't wait to hear how you're allowing this to just infuse your lives with a little more joy and a little more play. Take care of yourselves until next time. Bye.
Thank you for listening. If you want more resources on thriving in your life or want details on working with me, check out my website at internallyguidedleadership.com or follow me on Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok at Internally Guided Coach. Be gentle with yourselves out there, and I'll talk to you next time.